Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we take a look at 10 players that need saving from their current club situations. Let's get into it. 10. Renato Sanches. After winning Liga in 2021, Lille were unsurprisingly plundered for their best talent over the next 12 months, with the likes of Botman, Maignan and Soumaré all earning moves away. Also on this list was Renato Sanches, the former Bayern Munich youngster who had rediscovered his best form in northeast France. The Portuguese international again moved to a national superpower in PSG, costing them a relatively modest €50 million last summer. However, as is often the way in the French capital, fringe players are on the chopping block, and with a little over 700 league minutes, Sanches fits that mould. Rumour even has it the likes of Fenerbahce, Galatasaray and Roma were all offered the midfielder as the season drew to a close. But the 25-year-old needs to choose his next move carefully. Sanches impressed at boyhood club Benfica, earning a €35 million move to Bayern as an 18-year-old. But disappointed in Bavaria before his stint with Le Dog. The Euro 2016 winner is obviously a talented footballer, and it's clear he can thrive in the right system. Let's hope it won't be a case of what could have been. 9. Fabio Carvalho. It might be too soon to suggest Fabio Carvalho's career is already in need of saving, but he certainly needs more game time in the 23-24 campaign, wherever that may be. The 20-year-old attacker starred for Fulham in the Championship in 21-22, hitting double figures for goals, but after a £7 million switch to Liverpool last summer, scored just twice in 13 league outings. Furthermore, he only picked up 8 minutes of football after the World Cup, suggesting he isn't impressing Jurgen Klopp enough in training. Klopp, of course, has no issue with giving youngsters minutes. Trent Alexander-Arnold topped 2,000 minutes as a teenager back in 2017-18, whilst Harvey Elliott achieved the same feat last campaign. Liverpool are stacked in the areas that Carvalho would occupy on the pitch, limiting his pathway to regular minutes. And turning 21 before the current window ends, the Portuguese youth international finds himself in a critical stage of his development. Of course, there's no rush to leave Anfield permanently, but maybe a loan deal would be best to showcase his talents, with such a move benefiting Elliott 2 years ago. And with links to RB Leipzig, it looks like Carvalho could get his dream. 8. Luis Maximiano. 12 months ago, Luis Maximiano was one of European football's most sought-after goalkeepers. The 24-year-old had made 127 saves across his debut season with Granada, a division high, but not enough to keep them in La Liga. Lazio won the race to sign the former Portuguese under-21 international, parting with just over €10 million to bring him to the Italian capital. However, the 22-23 season could have hardly gone much worse for Maximiano, and it's hard to see how it will improve in 23-24. Just 6 minutes into the Serie A opener, the Sporting youth graduate was sent off for handball, and hasn't featured in the league since, limited to just 5 further appearances across the Coppa Italia and the Conference League. Unfortunately for Maximiano, his replacement Ivan Provedel, also a new arrival, has excelled. Despite being signed as a backup, the 29-year-old Italian equalled the league record of 21 clean sheets, conceding just 30 goals all campaign on his way to Serie A Goalkeeper of the Year, as Lazio finished second. And with a notoriously stubborn Maurizio Sarri in charge, Maximiano may have to cast his eyes away from the Stadio Olimpico for regular game time. 7. Tanguy and Ndombele. Arriving at Tottenham Hotspur as their record signing, Tanguy and Ndombele hasn't consistently hit the heights expected of him, with bosses Jose Mourinho, Ryan Mason and Antonio Conte all dropping him over professionalism and fitness issues. In fact, the £64 million man has spent the last 18 months away from the Lily Whites, ending 21-22 at former club Lyon and spending the entirety of 22-23 at Napoli. He might have come away from these spells with more silverware than his parent club, but still the 26-year-old's future hangs in the balance. Managing just 8 starts in Serie A as Napoli clinched the Scudetto, the partner pair have decided not to exercise the €30 million option to sign him permanently, sending the midfielder back to Spurs with 2 years left on his deal. Fortunately for Ndombele, his saviour might have already arrived in North London. Spurs' appointment of a new manager in Ange Postecoglou hypothetically provides a clean slate for everyone at the club, providing him with perhaps one last chance to make it in the Premier League. If it doesn't look like he'll feature regularly, Ndombele should move on to avoid being cast to the sidelines for yet another season. 6. Charles de Ketelaere. With the 22-23 season kicked off across the continent, the most expensive under-21 player that had switched clubs was Erling Haaland. The second was Charles de Ketelaere, who moved from Club Brugge to AC Milan in a €35 million deal, coming off a season in the Belgian Pro League where he scored 14 and set up 7 more in a title-winning campaign for the Blauw-Zwart. The Belgian international made 40 appearances across all competitions, but with just 13 of those being starts, he didn't manage to hit 1,500 minutes. As for his output, he has just 1 Serie A assist to show for his efforts, calling into question his future at San Siro. The departure of Paolo Maldini as sporting director, who spent 70% of the Rossoneri's budget last summer on the attacking midfielder, hasn't helped his cause, although his agent believes the club still have faith in his client. However, with his confidence low and yet to find a fit in Stefano Pioli's side, Milan could entertain offers, and it might be in De Ketelaere's best interest to look for a clean break. 5. Franck Kessie. A few days after helping seal the Scudetto for Milan in 21-22, Franck Kessie announced his decision to leave the club on a free transfer. He soon chose Barcelona as his destination, an interesting choice considering the Blaugrana already had Sergio Busquets, Frankie de Jong, Gavi and Pedri as central midfielders. This meant that even if they managed to shift de Jong, Kessie would not have been guaranteed a starting spot. Well, the Dutchman stayed and played more minutes than any other midfielder on Xavi's books, consigning his new Ivorian teammate to little more than a role player. Over the course of the campaign, 26-year-old Kessie made just 7 league starts and didn't top 1,800 minutes in all competitions. Heading into the new season, Busquets may be on the way out, but Man City's Ilkay Gundogan is on the way in, meaning competition for places will remain just as fierce. Kessie still has 3 years remaining on the contract he signed at the Camp Nou last summer. It's a case of whether he's content sitting on the bench for that time when he'd be a starter almost anywhere else in Europe. 4. Kieran Tierney. Signed for £25 million from Celtic in 2019, Kieran Tierney was meant to be Arsenal's saviour at left-back. Nacho Monreal was now 33, while Sead Kolasinac had failed to replicate in North London the form that saw him named in the 2016-17 Bundesliga team of the season. Aged just 22 and with 170 Celtic appearances to his name, it was all set up for Tierney to be the starter at the Emirates for the next decade. But it's not panned out like that. During his first 3 seasons south of the border, the Scot averaged 16 games a season out with injury, most of this stemming from shoulder and knee problems. This led Mikel Arteta to sign Man City's Alexander Zinchenko last summer, ultimately limiting Tierney to just 6 starts in the Premier League. This has coincided with the 26-year-old's first injury-free campaign since 2015-16. Giving hope that if his playing time is managed carefully, he can contribute across a whole season. Newcastle had been interested in him as a Dan Burn replacement but seemed to have moved on. Can Tierney justify staying with Arsenal as a backup when he's supposed to be entering the prime of his career? 3. Harry Maguire. It looks like time is finally up for Harry Maguire at Man United. Signed for £80 million in 2019, the centre-back played every single minute of his debut campaign in the North West, even going on to equal a club record 71 consecutive full 90s at Old Trafford. However, the club captain has seen his minutes steadily decline since his arrival. Last season, 30-year-old Maguire made just 8 league starts, his lowest total since making his professional debut with Sheffield United back in 2010-11. And it's hard to see that figure creeping back up under Erik ten Hag, whose preferred defensive partnership sees Lisandro Martinez line up alongside Rafael Varane. Maguire remains a key part of the England setup under Gareth Southgate, starting 14 of the Three Lions' 15 fixtures over the last year, including all 5 at the Qatar World Cup. Maguire needs to find regular first-team football once more to hold on to his place, something he'll surely be able to find elsewhere in the Premier League. It's either that or 2 more years warming the Old Trafford bench. 2. Lucas Tousart. For a brief moment a few years ago, Hertha Berlin threatened to challenge the elite of German football. Bought by businessman Lars Windhorst in 2019, the club planned to spend big in return for Europe. But 4 years and almost €400 million total investment later, Die Alte Dam were consigned to relegation after finishing last in the Bundesliga. Close to half of that investment was on new players, and €110 million was spent in 2019-20 alone, on the likes of Christoph Piontek and Matthias Cunha. The most expensive arrival was the €25 million man Lucas Tousart, who left Champions League Lyon to join the project in the German capital. And despite Hertha's slide down the table, the central midfielder has consistently performed. Last season alone, only 1 player ran more than the 388 kilometres the Frenchman managed in the Bundesliga, whilst his 5 goals and 3 assists are career highs. Tousart turns 26 in April, is closing in on 300 career appearances, has Champions League experience and will likely be available on the cheap. All ingredients that should make him an attractive prospect for a number of clubs across the continent. One thing's for sure, he deserves better than the second tier of German football. 1. Aymeric Laporte. At any moment, any player can become a victim of Pep Guardiola's selection policy. This year saw centre-back Aymeric Laporte get the short end of the stick, picking up barely a third of the minutes in Man City's 22-23 treble-winning campaign as he did in the prior 12 months. He may have started the season in the treatment room, but even upon his recovery was limited to just 11 league starts, whilst he only appeared for a minute in the FA Cup final and remained on the bench during their Champions League triumph. Ruben Dias has continued to perform as one of the world's best in the heart of defence, whilst Nathan Ake and Manuel Akanji have both been described as Pep as fundamental to the way he likes to play. And that's not even mentioning John Stones' transformation as a player in the back half of the season. Basically, Laporte slide down the pecking order, and it's hard to see how, barring injury, he reclaims a regular starting spot. The 29-year-old though does continue to start for his adopted nation of Spain, and has hinted at an exit from the Etihad in order to preserve his position as we head towards Euro 2024. Guardiola doesn't often stand in the way of players' desire more game time, so if Laporte wants out, he knows what to do. So guys, that was our rundown of 10 players that need saving this summer. I'm sure we missed loads and loads of players off the list, so let me know in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like it and subscribe to Football Daily, and I'll catch you next time.